So ready.
Oh, so ready. Still waiting to go.
Still waiting to go live, but not anymore because now we are
Nope.
live. This is HF Pod. We're here. We're with Brian and Megan. Brian is wearing his lumberjack shirt. Megan's wearing her sweater. Even though it's only October, you guys look like it's like mid-January here on the
First
pod.
of all,
It's cold
this
here.
is a short sleeve sweater.
Okay, well, how
And
would I have known that before?
and I'm in the mountains. It's like 45 degrees out and rainy here. It's super vibey today. Actually really into it.
Good.
Yeah.
What about you, Brian? What's your excuse?
It's windy and fall and a little chilly and great here. I mean, this is the best time of the year.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
sunny but cold.
Yep.
The leaves are golden. My ash tree out front is at the stage of the year where it's like 16 different colors. We treat that thing every other year because there is a beetle in this area that is killing these ash trees.
That's
And
horrible.
so we inject it with this defense mechanism that has so far held up. I get my tree guy Mark out there every other April, I should say. And next April he's up because I'm always worried. Every time the tree changes color, it's like this it looks like a fall sweater.
Mhm.
And I'm like, is this the last year? So I'm asking myself again, is this the last year?
Yeah. Sorry to hear that. Well, that's too bad.
It's
Well,
not the last year. It still looks great. That's the,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Mark's
we're
got it under
inject again.
control. I think he's
we're
got it
doing
under
okay.
control.
There's a lot of invasive species these days, It's one of the things that's happening.
Everywhere. I had a huge tree fall down in my yard this morning too. A huge one. I showed you guys a
Wow.
picture.
You did.
Yeah.
It was
My God.
huge. I didn't even hear it either. But it's really windy and stormy here, and it's been raining for like 2 days. But it was pretty big, like a big section of it, and it didn't look unhealthy. So I don't know if it was struck by lightning or what. But a lot of cleanup to do today.
This is our natural world section of the podcast, and if anyone else has anything they want to add in the chat about trees or beetles or anything, just Rushmore of invasive species episodes. Yeah, dude, the lanternfly would be on there. Spotted lanternflies around here is.
Oh yeah, we get those too.
Number one, they tell you to just kill them, which is like pretty rare that someone tells you to just kill something. Okay,
is it rare anymore? I don't know.
I don't know. I've never seen it before. Maybe it's just.
I love that's a factual statement, RJ.
I don't know how it is. How the hell would I know? I'm just saying.
I don't know. This is the Northwoods segment of our episode, which is a great advertisement for our book literary / movie podcast called Library Card, which we will be recording an episode of that following the conclusion of this episode, where we will be doing a blockbuster card edition, talking about One Battle After Another, which two of us have seen twice. One of us has seen once. You'll try to guess which ones have seen twice and once following that episode, but also includes an episode about the book Northwoods that the three of us highly recommend and is still there as my tier 1A book of 2024.
That book was so amazing. And I think about it every time I'm up here in Massachusetts, because I told you guys, but I planted an apple tree like 14 years ago. It was just probably like 3 feet tall. And until 2 years ago, it didn't make apples. And this year we had our first harvest of like big grocery store size apples. And it is the most Northwoods thing ever, because part of that book talks about an apple orchard.
Yeah.
Apples are essential to understanding that book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it was amazing. I've been baking with them all weekend. I made an apple cake. I may put some in my squash soup. I'm super fall vibes over here, guys. I need Brian's shirt. Then I'd be like perfectly fall vibes.
Yeah, we would be, but we're all covering it somehow. Okay, so I guess we got the fall vibes. Everyone knows it's fall now, I think, throughout this, hopefully. We got an amazing review from a listener. You guys, you've been so kind in your reviews on Apple Podcasts, but really great. And I just want to say, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can go there and just do it pretty easily. I've walked through the steps before, but if you go to Apple Podcasts, you should be able to figure it out. Search for Helping Friendly Podcast. Leave us a review. The last one is just wonderful. So thank you to that listener for leaving that one.
RJ, can I interject about that?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to have that listener. I think it's Hambone24. I want them to message me on Instagram or Blue Sky because I want to send them something. So please reach out to me because that was an awesome review. So if you're listening, please reach out. It was really meaningful.
I hope it's apples.
It is. It's an apples and an apple cake. It's just apple themed things.
That would be so cool. Okay. Thank you for interjecting that. There is a new episode of our friend Chris Pandolfi. It has his new season of this podcast, Inside the Musician's Brain. He interviews Del McCurry. It comes out tomorrow. You all should check that out. He's doing such great interviews. And I think on this episode, he talks about HF Pod a little bit at the beginning. He's been a guest multiple times, and he's a good friend of the pod. And he has awesome conversations with bluegrass folks and people beyond the bluegrass world. So check that out wherever you get podcasts. And I think that's everything before we get into Crosseyed and Painless. It's a unique Mount Rushmore, maybe the only Mount Rushmore entry with Phish Mt singing. Do you guys agree? Will there be any more?
Well, we did MoMA dance before, so no.
Well, he's not singing lead vocals though on MoMA dance.
Isn't he the lead vocalist of the MoMA dance?
Yes, only Trey does it when he forgets that he's not doing the tab version. But yeah, it's Phish Mt.
Yeah, I guess so.
It was
This feels
recently.
more. This feels more like that.
We will definitely be doing a tube Mount Rushmore at some point. That is a song that requires a Mount Rushmore culling, figuring out what are the 4 best tubes, not first tubes and not last tubes, the 4 best tubes. It's my tube joke for the day. And that song is not sung by John Fishman, but those lyrics are written by John Fishman.
Not really on topic,
right.
but what else is new?
RJ is like lit up today. This is what happens when you have a day off, I guess.
I guess so. You guys are just calling me out, so I'm back. I'm so back. I'm ready.
We could do like a bike, hold your head up, bike. I don't know.
Well, we're gonna do hold your head up is definitely on the list of Mount Rushmore's to do because
isn't it like the most played song ever?
Well, not the hold your head up, but the segment, the Phish Mt segment within. You're going to have to listen to a lot of like 1991 Phish Mt telling the same joke 6 shows in a row. I hope you're ready, but that's the hard work. That's the hard work that's essential to making this podcast tick and to making it work and to getting the kind of reviews that we got from Hambone. Because as Hambone said, we're in a new era. Maybe the best. Who knows? Who's to say? Who's to do a Mount Rushmore of HF pod eras? Certainly not us. That would be a little biased.
Yeah.
But we have to keep the workload up by listening to every HYHU in a row to ensure that we understand Mount Rushmore of it. So you're welcome, Meg. You walked right into that one.
I can't wait. Can't wait for that.
All right, Meg, tell us about this song. Is there anything we need to know besides what Brian already said?
Yeah, there's a lot we need to know. Cross-Eyed and Painless was obviously written by the Talking Heads, and it was released on Remain in Light in 1980, but it was first performed by Phish on Halloween in 1996 as part of their musical costume. The Talking Heads' Remain in Light album was the 3rd musical costume that the band undertook, but it was the first that wasn't a fan vote. And part of the genius of this band is knowing that this album would lead them out of the uncertainty and the transition year that was 1996. They were looking for a direction after a fall spent perfecting arena rock and playing relentlessly that peaked with this world-dominating show at MSG on 12/31/95. And they found what they were looking for in the hive mind groove of the Talking Heads. The tight, tense, high energy shot out of the cannon that is Cross-Eyed and Painless gave the band the path they needed to find their new sound. This first version is played with Carl Perazzo on drums and Grippo and Grazaway on horns. And the debut is a 10-minute tour de force, which we're going to talk about. The song was immediately impactful as they played at their next show in Florida, also with Perazzo on drums. And that led to a monster jam. Oddly, they only play it 3 times in 1997, despite being so clearly influencing their sound at the time. And then it was totally shelved until Big Cypress, where it shows up for a 21-minute version after Yem at 2 a.m. Clearly, the band remembered how inspiring this song could be when they needed to jam. And it shows up twice more in 2000. It's played twice in 2.0, both great versions, and a few times a year, kind of early in 3.0. And then it shows up 9 times in 2011. And then it's played a few times a year throughout the rest of 3.0 and 4.0. But recently, it's really started to be playing with increasing frequency. It was played 6 times in 2024 and 4 times this year, and obviously could be 5 after MSG. And I think this song has such important moments in important shows. I think about like UIC 2011, Bill Graham 2012, Jam Night at the Baker's Dozen, but it's also been the jumping off point of segments of jamming that have been the highlights of the set or even the tour throughout its life of the band. This song's been played 72 times, so every 14 shows on average since its debuts. It has 34 entries on the Jam chart, and that is a 47% chance of jamming. And I looked through all our old Mount Rushmores, and that is the highest we've discussed in the Mount Rushmore series. Most are around 30%, and this one's at 47. So Brian curated 12 versions for our HF Pod top versions, and they range from 96 to 2025, just kind of demonstrating that this song continues to be as inspiring today as it was when it first debuted.
Brian, do you want to say anything about the 12 versions as it is a pretty, a curated version of the 34? Is that 34 on the Jam chart?
Yeah. I when I was thinking through and I was looking through the larger list, I mean, Cross-Eyed is interesting. It's something we're going to talk about, no spoilers, but almost from the jump, that one of the things that makes this song special as a jam vehicle is that it's almost as much about the song as it is about the jam itself. And so this is definitely one of those and I'd be curious to go through the larger list of Rushmore songs we have selected that would fall in this category. But this is definitely one of the songs that you could make an argument for pretty much every version to be a Rushmore selection to listen to, if only because almost every version that's been played at least has a Type 1.5 jam onto it, if not a full-on excursion that is usually show, if not set and tour defining in a lot of cases. I think that what makes these versions really unique is that they both incorporate what makes Cross-Eyed and Painless so special as a song, the groove, the really driving, really vivid lyrics that are provided that really feel like a call to action in some case and feel like someone really just struggling with the system that they're living in at this point in time. And then the music and the riff that is such an earworm and just buries itself in your brain. These jams build off of that tension and that sort of idea that is ever present, like right at the forefront of what the song is about, but then also show us what happens when the band feels this inspired, this locked in, and where they can go with that sense of freedom. And so I think when you look at these versions compared to, say, something that was uh, uh, off of our list, but is definitely a notable version that I would encourage people to check out, which is 712 2000, rather than just fading into space and fading into kind of atmosphere as a fade into the next song, these versions all kind of build off of what Cross-Eyed and Painless is, what it does for the set just by appearing, and then shows us kind of a new idea of who Phish could possibly be, which when you go back to the origins of the song is really one of the things, in addition to the song itself, the jams it produces, thematically, what this tipped off for the next 6 to 8 months for Phish and throughout all of 1997. This song is really kind of a cornerstone of where they were going.
So we had 12 to choose from, and this was a pretty, I guess, unanimous discussion. Pretty easy. We didn't have a lot of fights. Nobody threatened to quit. There were no,
No.
there were no big quarrels, unfortunately. So there's not a lot to this. But why do you guys think this song was missing in the late 90s?
I think it's because the band found that they could play around the theme of the song
Yeah.
enough that it didn't necessarily need to rear its head.
Hmm.
Like it's almost too much on the nose.
Yeah, like I feel like when they played this, I'm trying to step lightly so that I don't give too much away for our first great reveal. Um, when you hear the band play Remain in Light and you read about that period in time and that tour, what really strikes me is that they almost had no, and Meg mentioned this in her intro. They almost had no idea where to go next. They had these little hints and little moments of like, okay, we should try this music. We should try, to bury ourselves in these kind of grooves. Okay, Fishman should try to do this, and Trey should try to do this. And there seems to be just a lot of like, everything's working, but it's not as exciting as it was. And we need it to get back to being as exciting as it was while it still works at this level in an arena. And they weren't really finding what that is. And it almost sounds as though the second they played Remain in Light on stage on 10/31/96, they realized in the moment that this is the type of music that we need to go forward with. And so you then distill that. I don't think Phish is really the band that is going to play once in a lifetime outside of the debut performance and then the um, one off on Dick's Night 3 2015. Very specific one off bust out. You start to go through the songs in Remain in Light, and I think it's really this or The Great Curve, a song that many of us have been begging the band to bring back. These are the two songs that feel most in line with like what a Phish show sounds like. And so these are kind of the representations of who Phish is post Remain in Light. But the challenge with Cross-Eyed is that riff and that groove sounds like a Phish jam. And so when you go through late 1997, 1998, parts of 1999, rather than play the song, they kind of just seem to find themselves in a cross-eyed space that makes it, well, why would we play it if we're already using the best parts of this song until we get to a great bust out version on 12/31/99. But Meg, do you have anything you want to add there?
I was thinking something similar. It's kind of like, when you find the piece that leads you, kind of the piece of the missing puzzle, and you know where your direction is next, that maybe you don't want to keep playing the piece. You're like, okay, now we have this and we want to translate it into our sound and our music. And they did that so effectively. So maybe they were just kind of shelving it in a way to push themselves to use that sound in their own music and in other jams. But I do find it interesting that anytime they needed to like super big jam, like I'm like jam filled night, like, Big Cypress, they go back to Cross-Eyed. And I think it's really a big indication of like, because they're playing it more frequently now with their commitment to extended jamming now, it makes sense to me. I think this song is a place where they really find inspiration for deep jamming. I mean, you can hear it in the second version they ever play, but it's just interesting that they felt like they couldn't use it then. And maybe it was intentional. I'm not sure. Interesting to think about. But I think Ghost is the song that reminds me the most of this in encapsulating a sound and being so kind of contextually important for the band. But they played Ghost like crazy. But maybe that's because it's an original. I don't know.
My guess would be that that's an original. I mean, it is interesting to look at Cross-Eye's appearances and gaps from 1996 to 2009. Outside of two notable performances, 2/21/97 and 9/14/2000, there's nothing less than a 25 show gap in between versions. And then it's played on 6/23/2004 for the last time in 2.0, and then 6/29/2009, a version I was at. I remember quite notably because Fishman pulled his microphone down before the second set, and a guy right next to us started yelling, "Cross-Eyed!" And of course, they opened up with it, and the place lost its mind. But then they found themselves in it, I think by mistake. I don't think they were planning to. Just 2 shows later, 7/31/2009, out of a Drown jam. And
Mm.
from there on, there's a 40 show gap between 7/31/09 and 6/24/10. But post that, there is nothing more than a 24 show gap in 2019. So 6/23/19 to 12/7/19. Everything outside of that is pretty much sub 20 shows, if not within 10 shows. Like it just becomes,
Yeah.
I think to your point, Meg, they figure out how to jam all of these songs going forward. And Cross-Eyed jams move beyond just the Cross-Eyed theme in a lot of ways, that they seem to be celebrating playing it while also knowing that like that groove was a part of the band's jamming style a long time ago. It's now more, lost to history.
All right, Meg, do you want to take us to the first one here? Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm really excited too, because when I was listening back to these versions and I played the debut, I texted you both immediately because it was so thrilling. And I hadn't listened to it in a while, and I think I forgot just how absolutely intense this version is. And like I mentioned earlier, we have Carl Prazo on drums, and we've got the horns in there. And when you listen to this version and you think about what was happening in 1996 at this time, it is so absolutely thrilling. This version is jangly, it's wildly paced. The horn section is just going mad. The pace clearly motivated the band, and you can instantly see how inspired and captivated they are. Riding that groove must be so intoxicating. The textures, the pace is relentless. Phish Mt is so lit up. I love how it ends with this big percussion breakdown. This is pre-percussion rinse, but this is what it sounds like. And Phish Mt's just screaming over it. And the crowd is going absolutely nuts. And 1996 crowd, like we deserved it. We had seen so much mid-Phish that year. So like we really deserved this moment. And I think that besides the electric, absolutely killer performance, there's two other reasons that it's on our list. And we've kind of been talking about it. Brian mentioned it earlier. The song of Cross-Eyed is just as important as the jam. This set is always changed when there's a Cross-Eyed and Painless played. It is such a shot of adrenaline, and this version is the strongest shot of them all. It's so infectious, and I think if you're gonna make an argument for a Mount Rushmore version just being the song, this is the perfect version of that. And also context, which we love context here, and historically, this album cover changed everything for the band. It taught them they could reinvent themselves, and you can really hear it in this performance. And things change right away for them after this. And if you think about what 1996 Phish sounded like before Halloween 96 and what it sounded like after, it's completely crazy. And I think this is probably the strongest contextual argument we've had for a Mount Rushmore, except maybe Ghost. But I really do think contextually having this debut on Mount Rushmore is really important. So Halloween 1996 is the first version we're going to put on Mount Rushmore. And I'm interested to see what people think, if they think that that's the right move or not. So chat, let us know.
The only thing I wanted to add is just I think it's the only, is that the only time they played Cross-Eyed with horns?
I think so. We would have.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other.
Yeah, and the horns add so much, it's such a great way.
Yeah.
In future versions,
So
you hear
much.
Trey try to figure out how to like fill in that space, because he's, in the first version, it's just it's such a big part of the song, and then they have to figure out how to fill it in, which they do figure it out. Spoiler alert. But yeah, it's cool that it's just like a simple chord jam. Like Trey isn't really soloing at all, but it just is like it's so high energy and so fast paced, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it almost feels when they play this like they've just unlocked something, not just for themselves, like for the whole like jam band universe. Like it's wild how much the groove within Cross-Eyed sounds like how late 90s and modern day jam bands jam. It's kind of funky. It's got a propulsive groove to it. It's minor keyed, so it's a little bit sinister. You can do a pentatonic scale over it like a motherfucker and sound like you know what you're doing. You can throw some wah on there, some weird effects, throw the clav on. There's like breakdown opportunities and then back into the groove. Like there's a reason why jam bands across the world play the Talking Heads as like some of their foundational covers, and that Cross-Eyed and Painless is one of those. And you just hear it with Phish. It just like makes sense. Like you suddenly hear, these groovier parts. And I say this in quotes because 1995 is not really groovy Phish, if you will, but like there
No.
are groovy parts of jams throughout that period in time that suddenly you're like, oh, they just needed to figure out the Talking Heads and whatever rhythms they were playing with on that album. And yes, someone to mention in the chat, like Born Under Punches, that would be an amazing return cover. I would love to hear them play that again. The Great Curve, I already mentioned, like pretty much the entire Remain in Light. If you just want to play that all the way through another time, I'm
Yes,
here for
please.
that bust out. That would break the internet in a very good way. I'd be into it. But Cross-Eyed and Painless is the one that sounds like a Phish jam distilled into a song. And you hear it so much in this first version. I think this is one of the best debuts that they've ever played throughout their history. It may be the strongest. Like I'm really struggling to think of another time that a song meets Phish where Phish is at. And even on other great performances of cover albums, you think just 2 years later, the performance of Remain in Light, could we have selected the Rock and Roll there as a Rushmore version? There's definitely an argument that we could have. That's an extended Trey solo on that really sets a template for what that song will be going forward. But I think that to your point about context, Meg, Cross-Eyed and Painless being played for the first time is in a totally different category with Rock and Roll being played for the first time. Phish wasn't changing dramatically coming out of Halloween 1998 the way that they were changing dramatically coming out of Halloween 1996. So I'm totally into this. I think that we all wrestled with a few versions, and then we're like, no, the debut makes the most sense for everything that we've just said here. I'm proud to have this be our number one.
Yeah, I think it's the best debut ever. I posted about that online, and I was waiting for someone to counteract me, and nobody has yet. And so contradict me, not counteract, contradict me. And no one has.
Counteract
And
too,
does that work too? Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Coming after you.
Yeah, I'm off work today. I'm a little slow on the uptake. Yeah, I think it might be. I don't know. I'd love for someone to prove me wrong, but it's hard to think of a more powerful debut that had bigger impact.
Yeah, it is hard. It's hard to think about. I don't know. I can't think of one.
Like even something like Golden Age, that was like a big deal when it debuted, from a cover standpoint. Also, like most of the fan base didn't know who TV on the Radio was. And like that song, we didn't know what it would become. Like, is it actually going to become, this is Halloween. This is the second track. You're totally right about the horns. And it really makes me wonder why like Trey's never offered to do this again in the times that they've brought horns back on stage. Like, it's like the only song we know how to play with horns is Susie Greenberg. Everything else like is off the table. Like this is an amazing song with horns. It's such a great call.
Yeah, that would have been so killer to hear this again with horns, but
there's still time, guys. There's still time.
Yeah.
Could they have made Magna Ball Day 4 better by playing Cross-Eyed and Painless with horns? That is the question.
That is such a good question. Such a good question.
Such a good question that we have to move on to Mount Rushmore number 2.
We do. Megan, where are we going next? Far, far away?
What's wild is that we're not going very far, and it's 1996, and we're having a second 1996 version on Mount Rushmore. I mean, this has got to make me feel a little good because I've seen the most Phish in 1 year out of every year in 1996. And, I saw a lot of just okay Phish, but it's really cool that there's still great Phish, even in years that are less successful for them.
Year.
Yeah, it's just like so cool. But this performance comes just a few days after the debut. It's part of our Top Tour 25, this tour where they're really thinking about rhythmic exploration and they want to go really big. They have a playfulness. There's a real searching quality to it. We talked about how they were kind of re-inspired after this post-peak exhaustion and testing out the largeness of their machine. And can we still take risks now that we're this big? And I think that there was a little bit of a hint of where they were going before Halloween. I think about like the Simple from 1026 in Charlotte. But to me, the best jam of this whole entire fall 1996 tour is this jam is the November 2nd, 1996 from Coral Sky, Florida. This we all agreed had to be on there. This was a no-brainer. Carl Perazo sitting in again. The beginning of this is so awesome because you can hear Trey saying, remember the one that's still waiting? And he like kind of like cues it up for them. And then they just go and then they just launch bam right in. And it's just, oh, it's so good. I think you can immediately hear the effects of the Remain in Light album on their sound. And Trey's the way that he takes the big solo out of the song. RJ, when you said that about them filling the space of the horn, you can hear Trey just like doing that so solidly here. And he takes this huge, massive solo that turns the whole jam really melancholy and dark. And they're already refining the soundscape textures behind the song, which is really interesting to me. And I think in this version, you hear 1997 jamming reveal itself. It's layers of textures over a funk groove, Mike super out front, Paige and Trey are talking back to Mike. And then at 14 minutes in, it just goes completely off the rails, effects, loops, but it still never loses that propulsive nature. And it ends with those kind of eerie and desperate still waiting quotes. And to me, this jam is the perfect combination of energy, rhythm, and exploration. It has all of those, and it never goes too far on either one of those. It kind of balances them in a way that I think is so exciting, especially thinking about it being in fall 1996.
We have a question in the chat. Is this the first Rushmore with 2 consecutive versions? I think it definitely is.
Definitely, right?
It's definitely not.
Nope.
It's definitely not, guys. Obviously.
Waves.
Nope, it's wrong.
2011, 526,
right.
2011, 527, 2011. But yeah, I mean, this is a rare thing. This is
Right.
definitely something we have to like consider and ask about. I think that up until sometime this weekend, 11/2/96 was our first one. And then we were searching for what the number 4 would be, and we realized it was right in front of us. It was 1031. So it is a rare thing. It's definitely worth noting and pointing out.
It's okay. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to pretend that there was some legitimacy to the claim that this was the first one. Just wasn't, because there was Waves, which was even shorter in time
Yeah,
period.
one day.
I just I mean, you said a lot of it, Meg, but I think Trey is kind of in the front at the beginning, and then he steps back and Mike is playing, like on the third time back listening to this, you can hear Mike just playing really interesting lines in here. It's just like they opened up this new space that they had found in 95, but like kind of lost at some point in 96 for the most part, with a few exceptions. But it just there's just like, it's like a new vehicle they found. And it's, of course, with 2 drummers keeping it like high energy throughout, but it's cool that it's like some really great soloing, but then it gets, kind of dissonant and spacey, but it's still like so rhythmic throughout. It never slows down the entire time. It's an amazing jam.
Yeah, this jam is amazing, and I don't think there was ever a question of whether or not this would be on our list. The thing you mentioned there, I was thinking about it as well, that infusion between summer 95 and fall 96, where you have this underlying groove, you have this kind of tightness that they had built up throughout the year, but they're also dipping back into the spaciousness. It's not as melodic or kind of mic oriented as you will get a year from now with their jamming. It's much more it's a lot more bizarre than fall 97 jamming, but it has that groove. You're totally right, Meg. Like there's just something, you cannot pin this jam really down to an era, which is kind of how fall 96 feels overall. Like fall 96 kind of sounds like 1995 Phish, I can't speak, combined with 1997 Phish. But like it doesn't sound like its own thing in the way that like you hear something, you're like, yeah, that's fall 97. And so this like has that middle ground. It's really exciting in that way. And it really is bizarre to me that they didn't play this at all throughout the remainder of 1996. They never were like, I don't know what to play. Should we just like go up there and play another big Mike song, or, another 13-minute tweezer? Or like, should we dip into this song that is working? This won't get played again until 2/16/1997 in the winter Europe 97 tour. In 97, it's played 216, 221, and then 813, and then retired until Big Cypress. And it's just wild to think that they would discover something and have such immediate results and then back off it. That aspect of Phish, their kind of restraint when something works, and they're like, let's not tap the well too many times, because if we do, like, maybe we'll get stuck in this sound. They just let it be its own thing and then explored the remainder of the tour without it. It's just a really, really interesting decision. But I think that you could argue, if they didn't know on stage on 1031, this is when they have to know, because this jam has hints of that Simple you referenced, has hints of the Mike song from Deer Creek. Obviously, like, it feels like a hearkening back to some of the more wide open, spacious jamming of summer 1985. But considering everything that was happening in 1996 in the world of Phish, this is the moment where the proof is right there that whatever they did to play Remain in Light has now been unlocked into the jamming sensibility. And from here, even if they're not going to use Crosseyed and Painless, you're going to get the Rup Gin. You're going to get the Gin from 11/19/96. You're going to get a bunch of great You Enjoy Myself. You're going to get the Disease from Seattle. You're going to get all the weird stuff that happens throughout 12/6/96. Like, you're going to start to suddenly get these jams that feel like big stepping stones towards whatever's coming next in 1997.
Yeah, absolutely. I just was looking, and for all the Phish that I saw in 96 and 97, I'd never heard Cross-Eyed live until 2011. Like, that's bizarre.
Which is when it becomes like more like normalized, which is
Yeah.
wild to think. Yeah. We have a really good point here from Ed. Maybe they didn't like it that much with just one drum kit, which I never considered. Like Peraza
Yeah.
leaves, I think, the next show. I think he plays on 11/3/96, and I think he's done after that. And so maybe they just thought they couldn't hold down the rhythm with just Fishman. No offense, Fishman. We all know you can hold down the rhythm and sing, but maybe they thought initially that was going to be a little bit too much for them. Who knows?
There was a version mentioned in the chat earlier, which I guess was the first version I saw, which was 1/1/11.
Yeah, that's the first version I saw too.
That is very strange to think about.
Isn't that weird?
Yep.
I mean, for how much Phish, you saw a ton of Phish in 97, like in 98. Like, that's so, yeah, it's just bizarre.
Yeah. Nothing in 09 or 2010 either. So I had to wait and saw it 3 times in 11, and then enough after that. There was a time where, like, this was, I don't know exactly which versions, but there was like a period of time, maybe I'm thinking like 2009 to 2012, where they're like jamming was not really necessarily likely, and I guess it was during the time when like nothing was maybe gonna jam, but like you would hear it start and then it would be like an 8-minute kind of thing in the middle of a second set and nothing else would happen. I feel like that happened many times, but maybe it wasn't as many times as I think.
No,
that's a really good
jam chart. Yeah. Sorry, Brian. The only ones from 2009 to 2012 that are on here are with 13 to 16-minute versions. They're pretty short, and those are the only 4 that are on there from those 3 years. So yeah.
There was a lot as well, and this even happened into 2016. I think that the Gorge has one of these in 2016 on 7/15/2016, where the band was almost they would use it as kind of the starting block for a set, and then they would tease it throughout the set. And so they'd always come back to like Still Waiting, and there were a lot of sets that just started to kind of feel like Still Waiting sets. And that's something that has since largely been broken and largely been forgotten, as it's become more of a standard 16 to 20-ish minute jam vehicle that we see here into modern day. I will just say, the most recent incarnation of this song might be my favorite, where it seems like it is, what are we going to do to kick off the 4th quarter? It's been a good 3rd quarter. How are we going to end this show? Okay, we'll play Cross-Eyed. And they play like 9 to 16-minute version of Crosseyed that is not the most stunning music you've heard from the set, but picks up on the jamming from earlier in the set and does three things of being a great song selection in the fourth quarter rather than just like a standard Trey ballad. Here's a couple rock songs. The second you hear the whack of the snare drum and the first chords, like no matter if you saw the last 5 versions, you're excited. It just has that nature to it. And then it has open-ended jamming. So it ends up extending the kind of high points of a set. Magnaball 2020 or Mondegreen 2024 is a great version.
Totally.
Dix has one. There was one from Great Woods 2024, and that continued into this year.
MSG 12, 29, 24, like just
Yes.
completely like killed that fourth quarter. This, I totally agree. This is exactly what we should be doing in the fourth quarter. It's energetic.
Well, as you guys continue to think about what could be the next two, we have some guesses in the chat here. There is some speculation about what's next. You guys are going to have to wait just a minute while we take a break, and then we'll get to the last 2 versions. So be right back. All right, Brian, you are the person who has to take us to the next place.
I do. I have a few roles to play here at HF Pod headquarters, and one of them is advocating for this version of Crosseyed and Painless and this era of Phish in general. I think when we thought about where to go next, we looked at a few really solid, really excellent versions from the late 90s, most notably offhand the Big Cypress version from 12/31/99, the Darien Lake version from 9/14/2000, more specifically the Cypress version because it is the bust out and then it extends the Crosseyed theme, speeds it up, and then returns you there in such a cool way. But I think when we realized what Crosseyed ultimately will become as the band evolves is it's going to become one of their most important jam vehicles. This isn't just a bust out. This isn't just a song that's going to kick off a segment of teases and be like a really fun second set. This is a song that's going to have open-ended jamming, and this is something that's going to really become a part of Crosseyed's history and of Phish history overall as they move forward. And so there's a version that does the thing that 12/31/99 does, which is be this really monumental bust out in a really important Phish show. But then the jamming goes into a completely different direction, a completely different space, in a way we're going to describe here in a second. And that is 7/29/2003 from Burgettstown, Pennsylvania. I'll get the personal bias out of the way. This is, I think, the best jam of 2003 of 2.0 at large. I don't think that there is a single missed note throughout this jam. Every idea is then supported almost immediately by a different band member and pushes them forward so that like 3 minutes on down the road, you're hearing ideas of where the band was at 3 minutes prior, but it sounds like a completely different band. It's just a fascinating journey to listen to. I've gotten to the point where like I can't listen to this jam regularly. I just need to like be able to sit with it in the moment. This is my Phish musical version of the movie Goodfellas, in that it can do no wrong. There's no off points. There's no, weird rabbit hole they get you down that like then they have to back themselves out of and go find a different jamming route. Everything just works and propulsively moves you forward. But I think larger, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this. I want to hear you guys gush as much as I am, obviously. But like, why is this on our list beyond the fact that I love it? I think that when you think about Crosseyed and Painless up until this point in time, it is a song people are desiring to hear and that the band is using thematically to build out their jams, but they're not playing the song. And when you hear this version, they are now suddenly in an era. It will take a few years and a breakup, but they are in an era where this song is now going to be more comfortably residing in the overall song catalog, and will open itself up to so many different styles of jamming. And if you look through the next, 2 decades, you're going to get really beautiful melodic jamming like on 731, 2009. You're going to get really gorgeous chordal jamming that shows Page and Trey aligning on 71013 and 1017 14. You're going to get really fun groove-based jamming and thematic hose like 91416, but you're also going to get these like massive, sweet inducing versions like Jam-Filled Night. You're going to get ambient explorations like The Gorge 2018. And then so many more since they come back in the 4.0 era. We've just looking at the jamming chart of what we've seen, nothing really breaks the 20-minute mark, but it's all really inventive, really thoughtful, really wild, kind of risky jamming that you're going to get from them over the last 5 years since they've come back. And all of that to me really kind of starts with this version that solidifies that Crosseyed and Painless is now a song we're going to turn to, and a song we're going to turn to with good reason, because we have a lot of other things to say, and this is the good foundational starting point. So I'll pause, throw it to you guys. I think I've said enough about 72903, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I was just thinking about how in your intro, you said it had a little bit of a sinister vibe, like the minor key of this song. And I think if a song has that, it has to have a 2.0 representation. Like this song is gritty, it is a little edgy, it is a little agitated and exploratory, and that to me is what 2.0 is. And it's like, 2.0 is when you like pick up the rock and you like see what's under there, and that is what this Cross-Eyed version is to me. It launches with that juicy funk, but there's just 1 minute, one moment in the jam that's like 6 minutes in, and when I was listening to it, it feels almost like someone's like wearing a robe and then they just drop it, because it becomes so minimal and just shocking. And the way that they build the jam back up with percussion and Trey soloing is, oh my God. And they build to that like swirling crescendo. And the way that Trey just starts noodling those like really high notes, and Phish Mt's hitting these like really hard quarter beats, and Page gets on the piano. It's just, and then it has the like gritty soundscapes to end. This jam is tremendous. It's beautiful. And I think it has to be on here. I think the exploratory and nature of this jam is really where Cross-Eyed goes from here in a way that is, I mean, it's actually, that's not right. I think it exemplifies what Cross-Eyed has always been, because even in 11/2/96, it's super exploratory. And so I think this is one of the more exploratory versions and had to be on there. And I know someone in the chat was saying like, surprised that we skipped over Cypress. And I think when you listen to Cypress, and maybe it's because we don't have an archival version of it, which, are we going to get it? It's 25 years this year. I'm hoping that this year is actually when it happens, because like, how can you have your best concert of all time not archivally released? But listening to it with all these other versions that are archivally released, it's hard to compare them maybe, but this one has a stronger narrative arc, I think, than 12/31/99. And
Yeah.
to me, this one just stood out. It's much more focused. It's much more cohesive. It's richer. It's to me, it's more interesting.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, this is, this tour, if you listen to like take 5 or 6 jams from this tour, this is definitely one of them, I think it just
For sure.
represents the way they sound, and you're right that the song is a good fit for it. There's like a 71099 Chalk Dust vibe for a minute there that goes into this like repeating space loop, and it's really a really good representation of that tour. But then like it's sort of under control. It's like controlled chaos, for a lot of the time, which I think it's awesome. It's such a great I don't know. A lot of jams this tour, like, fast paced, slightly melodic, but also still like kind of unhinged. And that's what you get here. I think that mix is very, very recognizable. So we did it.
Yeah, we did it.
Brian.
I'm happy that it's here. Yeah, I hope everyone out there takes a second to listen to it and recognize its greatness, because it just deserves everyone's ears all over again.
So
Agreed.
we're going to the last version here, and there are there were like 5 or 6 versions post '03 if we were looking at it chronologically. Um, I agree that the Cypress Jam, by the way, just to go back to that, when I went back to it, I found it kind of like the last, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes are really great, but before that, it kind of like is unremarkable for a while until they get into this place.
It
And
drags.
that seems like
Sorry.
that's like, you're not allowed to say that about Cypress Jams, but now I've said it about 2 Cypress Jams on Rushmore, so let's keep it going.
It's true.
I'll keep it going. I mean, I'm just trying to be honest with you guys.
HF Pod breaking news. Cypress wasn't as great as it says it was. Everyone will really hate us then.
Yeah, it's fine.
We can only say that because none of us were there, and we don't really think that. I'm just
She
kidding.
said it on a recorded line. My goodness.
I'm totally kidding. It was facetious.
So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to add, it is interesting, like, to consider this versus the rock and roll, because I think we're all in agreement the rock and roll from Cypress ends up on the list, even, RJ's how do we put this nicely, his slaughtering of the last 15 minutes of that jam. No, I'm joking. That says a lot. Like I think it would be problematic if a song like Cypress or song like Cross-Eyed has to have one of its most important versions be from Big Cypress, when there has been so much music that's been played since, and Cross-Eyed and Painless has been a defining part of so much of the music since then. The counter is that a song like Rock and Roll really isn't like a foundational jam vehicle right now. It's like a set closer. It's an encore piece. They don't even open second sets with it anymore. Cross-Eyed and Painless is like front and center of who Phish is still to this day in 2025. And so while, I think the Cypress version rules. I love how it kind of like swirls up and it just gets faster and faster and faster. And then they come back in with the chorus. I think that that's such a cool part of the tradition of a Cross-Eyed jam, is how will they find themselves back into the chorus. But I think it showcases a lot about who Phish was in 1999 and 2000, not so much who they are now. That said, there's probably at least 2 more, if not 3 more Rushmore versions from Cypress, so you guys can all like tamp it down a little bit and just be cool with what we've done thus far. Because thus far we've put Down with Disease and Rock and Roll on the Rushmore from Cypress. And if the band wants to get us the soundboard quality tapes so that we can hear all the rest of them as we should, they're more than welcome to do that. Nobody's telling them not to.
No.
So good. Such a good point. Well, for our last version, we are going to a place where we do have a soundboard quality. We even do we have a vinyl version of this, or is that not on the vinyl version? Because it's not.
I don't remember.
This is not on the vinyl. No,
and
the
on
vinyl
version.
If you want my redo of the vinyl, I've crafted a playlist that would work hours-wise in the way that they did it, but it has all of the important jams and some of the important not jams, because there were some important not jams that happened that should have been preserved on that excellent vinyl that they released that doesn't have a ton of excellent takes. So, reach out.
I'm surprised that you have that, but life is full of surprises, and that's why we do this. Okay, so we're going to is this our first entry from Jam Night on Rushmore?
I believe
I'm
so.
afraid to say, because I'll probably be wrong, because I feel like
know.
everything I've answered authoritatively has been wrong this episode.
I don't think it's our first Baker's Dozen, because we did something from Baker's Dozen recently, because I remember saying that was the first. But I don't think I think this is our first from Jam Night. Anyway,
this is our first from Jam Night, and also our first from the Baker's Dozen.
Oh wow,
we've done one 2017 jam. We've never. I'm triple checking.
No,
it
you're
now,
probably
so
right.
you can all chill out. Okay, we're double checking.
I
triple
assume
checking.
you're right.
Relax.
Making sure everything's Relax, Wooks.
Well, I'll just start here
Yeah,
and
this
just
is the first Baker's Dozen jam right here.
That's
first Baker's Dozen
amazing.
jam. Look at that. Round of applause for all of you for just being awesome. So this is a the jam night. I don't know if you guys remember. Jam night was pretty
A little
awesome,
bit.
and this is it's a great version because it's like a long walk up a mountain. You know, it's like pleasant, patient. You see some trees, and then you kind of keep going. You know, maybe meander a little bit on the way, but like this jam probably wouldn't end where it ended up if it wasn't jam night. Like you could there are a
Yeah.
couple times when they just keep, pushing, but before that, like 6 minutes in, it starts to kind of go quiet, and then Trey just stays on the guitar like the whole time,
Mm.
and then it kind of meanders a bit for that walk up the mountain, but then it goes up to this ambient kind of space, and then just gets back to second kind of major peak. It just like that would be my very brief description, but there's a lot going on here. But you can tell that if it wasn't jam filled night, I think in that after that first little peak, it probably would have segued into something else. But they knew they were pushing it this night, and I'm glad they did, because there's so much going on here. There's like at least 5 or 6 different parts of this jam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there
think
are.
this version and 11296 are my two favorite versions of Cross-Eyed, because this one is, like you said, RJ, really well. The way it starts out so jazzy and melodic, it's so delicate and layered. And Page is so ethereally, he has this like ethereal background that is just so Baker's Dozen. And Trey just kind of floats on top. And it's so emotional. I was just listening to it before we recorded. It's just the most emotional playing. And Trey plays emotionally in a lot of these jams. I think about like the Dicks from 16. There's just so much emotion that he can find often in these jams. And this is the best version of it, in my opinion, because it builds to that perfect sunny peak. And then you have the most quintessential yards after catch situation, because the jam totally ends. And then, like you said, RJ, just Trey emerges out with these like little repetitive chords, and everybody slowly falls on top of it. And it's so pretty and patient. And then you get the more of that Baker's Dozen synth, and they build up. And the way they find the cross-eyed refrain again is just, it's perfect. This is an awesome version. I'm so glad it's on our list.
Yeah, I don't think I don't see anything else we could have done here. There's some excellent versions from the last couple of years. The Dick's version from 2016 that
Love
Meg
that
mentioned,
version.
we considered. If this had been my own personal list, I would have probably figured out a way to put 10, 17, 14 on there, which was one of my favorite jams of the pre-Baker's Dozen era. Regardless of Cross-Eyed, just like in general. But I think like when you think musically, you listen to this and it sounds like modern Phish, a little rough around
Mm.
the edges in some ways, but like as opposed to some of the 20 to 25-minute long jams of summer 2017 that critically now sound like the band building just towards a peak. This has that sort of abstract, any ideas possible. We can go to silence and then come back. Synthesizers are not just going to be an addition to the jam. They may be a centerpiece to a certain point in time. We can have multiple peaks. Like that's a thing. We don't just have to peak one time and then move on to another song. We can peak and then explore the backside of that and then peak again. Those sorts of ideas are going to become a huge driving force for why Phish is jamming in the modern era is the way that it is. And, you think back to this show, similar to 10/31/96, similar to 11/2/96, this feels like a big, you walk in one way, you walk out a completely different way in terms of how Phish is. And this is in a show where you've got the joke of a sample opener on Jam Filled Night, and then the joke is actually the band is going to jam out sample. Lawn Boy in song 2 that then goes almost 30 minutes. The first My Friend type 2 version that will then be reprised years later as the band realizes this song is now a jam vehicle. Stash and Bathtub Gin not jamming while everything else jams in the first set. Fuego, really cool jam. This is going to be the last jam of the show, this Cross-Eyed and Painless, and also the one that really kind of builds upon all the ideas that happened as a result of a gimmick. to your guys' point, this probably is 18, 19 minutes in a normal show. Here they
Yeah.
have the freedom established to make it 33 minutes, which was a shocking thing in
Yeah.
2017 Phish. Like we are now accustomed to, oh, it's just a 31-minute long jam. Like this never happened. And so not only do you get, this I think this is the first 30-minute jam since the Tahoe Tweezer at the time that
Yeah.
crosses that time frame and really showcases what 30 minutes can do for this band. But you also get this sense of like, all right, it doesn't just have to be Tweezer. Any song could have this opportunity to jam, and it can really happen at any point in the show. And you've got to imagine for the band, this reinforced an idea that even if things aren't clicking immediately, just keep trying, keep pushing,
Mhm.
because something like the Crosseyed and Painless from the Baker's Dozen could happen. And it now happens on a fairly regular basis, regardless the show. It does not need to be a centerpiece night. It does not need to be something that they're highly advertising. They just connect, and here you go. We got a 30-minute jam for you that's going to just blow your minds. So really, really important jam contextually, historically, but also just an outstanding and gorgeous jam.
And it's not surprising to me that they chose this song to play this Monster Jam in on this night. They could have chosen so many different songs. And to me, it makes sense that it was Cross-Eyed. But yeah, I really, when you were saying that, I was really thinking, like, I'm trying to remember how big of a deal it is when they play this long of a jam then, because we're spoiled now and we've lost the kind of what that feels like when they do something this big. It was a big deal.
It was just not even, nobody thought they would do it. Nobody was even predicting this sort of stuff anymore. Like, I think that people would have been satisfied with like 10, 12-minute long jams on jam filled night, just in case everything kind of jammed. Like, I don't think people were expecting multiple near 30-minute long jams.
Yeah.
No.
So the fans were on the same page with us, except for one exception, which was switching out the debut for Cypress, including Ev Dude. That was his individual choices were 11:22, 11:296, 12:31.99, 7:29.03, and 7:25.17. That reflects the fan vote also, Ev Dude. So you're a representative sample in this case. Do you guys want to? I know that we haven't really talked to honorable mentions. Can we do like a lightning round honorable mentions?
Sure.
Yeah. Did any fans vote for the debut? I'm just curious.
Yeah. There were some. There were like let's see, 10%.
Okay, cool. I was just curious.
Yeah. What do you guys got?
My honorable mentions were Cypress, 2012 Bill Graham, the Holmdale from July 10th, 2013, 10/17/14 from Eugene, and my personal favorite, which would have probably been my fourth if I took off the debut, which is the 9/14/16 from Dick's. But I had a lot of honorable mentions. That's 5, so that was 14. Like, I had a lot of versions on here. I got pretty close to all of them, basically, because all 12 of these you could make an argument for, I think.
Yeah, I think 9/4/16 was the highest ranked one that I had that didn't make the top 4. Although I do think, Brian, that the 10/17/14, there's like some My Bloody Valentine style sounds going on into the last like chorus at the end. That's like really, really cool. It's a really interesting jam.
Yeah, and I wish that jam. There are a few jams from fall 2014. The Chalk Dust and Ghost from Santa Barbara. Some of the stuff from San Francisco. The Piper from Las Vegas. But that was a very up and down tour, and that jam I think has gotten lost to history as a result of it. But like the key that they find and the way that they start singing, still waiting, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like, it's not cross-eyed. It's this like very haunting. They just kind of get this idea, and they're playing this really weird chord progression. I can't get enough of that. Every time I listen to it, it kind of like reinvigorates me and makes me realize that like there is worth in listening to all of these kind of underrated jams, because there's just something always happening at Phish shows. But I'll just shout out, because I was obviously on my honorable mention, Bill Graham was definitely there. That's a very, very significant version. I think I left it off only because the Cross-eyed Sandwich seems to be the bigger deal, and the Light and the Sally seem to be the bigger jamming deal in that set versus the Cross-eyed, even though Cross-eyed is quite good. But big shout out for 71013 from Homedale. One of my favorite jams of 2013 as a whole, and the chordal playing that you get from Trey towards the back end, where he aligns with Page and they rise, they like build the jam up, not through soloing, but through chords. I could not get enough of when it happened and on replay. And then 9416. And I threw 83124, maybe for honor attendance bias means, but like that jam that they get in that hints then back at what's going through your mind and really fulfills this nice segment of Kill Devil Falls, what's going through your mind, and Cross-eyed is just kind of exemplary of why I'm still so high on Summer 24.
All right, so this is Crosseyed and Painless. You got our Rushmore here. We got 1031.96, 11.296, 729.03, 725.17. Next week we are going to be doing another fun draft where we are going to select the top 25 shows of the 21st century. So if you want to prep for that, all you have to do is listen to every show between 2021, 2000, and the last show they played.
You should see this spreadsheet for this draft. It's like hilarious. But Brian can explain it about how we're going to do it, but it's different than our usual drafts.
It's different. Yeah, so you guys should get prepared. What I would say for everyone is kind of go through the larger list of shows played from 5/21/2000 to today, and just start to like see what it takes if you pick your 25 favorite shows or what you think the 25 best shows are, because that would be a fun way to play around and play along with us. We are going to draft in 8 rounds. Each person is going to have one pick. That pick, they can pick from any year. They can pick multiple times a year, multiple times a tour, multiple times a run. There could be runs that have multiple picks in our overall list. And then our final pick, our 25th pick, we will on air decide together what is the final show that is needed. So I think this should be a lot of fun. We're going to be jumping into the podcasting bandwagon of celebrating the last 25 years, putting a rubber stamp on the first quarter of this very interesting, slightly strange and a little bit terrifying century that we are finding ourselves in the midst of. But one of the best things that has happened over the last 25 years is that Phish got healthy. They figured things out. They got their lives on track. They got the music in the proper place. And we are at a point where we can legitimately look at 25 shows that defined the first 25 years, even if Phish didn't play in all of those. So very excited for that next week. We haven't drafted since the dreaded Dick's draft of August 2025. We won't be able to do an MSG draft ahead of MSG.
Why not?
So
why not, Brian? Brian, why not?
We're just not allowed to. We're not allowed
Why
to
not?
do that contractually.
Why not? Can you explain why?
Well,
doesn't
certain
work.
people have ruined that, that draft and have taken away the ability for us to celebrate MSG in all of its glory.
Who's ruined it, Brian? Who's ruined
So
it?
we're gonna do this draft, and then we're gonna figure out drafts for the year of 2026. We're very excited to bring you our next slate of drafts.
If someone wants to tell me what Brian's talking about, that'd be super helpful. So you can fill me in if you know why Brian won't let us draft MSG shows. You can let me know.
We just can't do it. So we'll be
Why?
preparing
I'm
for
confused.
MSG in a different way. But this will be our last draft of 2025, as far as I'm aware. Yes, unless someone wants to build the draft themselves. This will be our last draft.
Could happen.
No,
Could happen.
I mean you build the drafts. That's your job in this show.
Mario, who's watching on YouTube, asked, "What's the phone number? Do you all still take messages?" We do. It's 484-416-0488. You can call anytime, leave a message, and we're going to get to those. We're going through them as we go. So, all right, we got Cross-Eyed and Painless done. Next week, we'll choose the top 25 shows of the century, and
No
and
pressure.
and we'll keep bringing you awesome Phish discussion. So, thank you guys. Keep leaving us reviews and keep listening. And have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone. And if you watched one battle after another, come join our next pod.
It's happening now. Bye.